Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
IT policy.
Ditches.
Ditches.
I need to shut up, let you guys.
I think I can roll through this in 10, 15 minutes. Basically, in your handout, you have a kind of a draft policy. The line is, it's a policy for the Public Works Department to pipe a ditch on public property in the public right of way or on a drainage easement. And at the cost of the property owner, if they want their ditch pipe. So what I've got is a quick presentation to give you a kind of a quick overview to open up the discussion. Basically, there's two types of ditches. We have roadside ditches, which are open swale, and we also have curb and gutter. There are two kinds of drainage systems in communities. And right here you see, and of course, engineers and stormwater guys and public works guys, they love this ditch right here because it handles more water, more capacity. It's easy to inspect, and it creates a recharge area for stormwater and also treats the stormwater. So we're big advocates of the open ditch. We did take we have a citizen that's been calling us regularly and wants her ditch pipe, so I've asked her to if I could use her house and as an example on how this policy would be laid out. So this is the ditch that she has in front of her house right now, and the blue arrows there kind of show you how the ditch not only drains the water off the road and the water out of the base of the road, but also drains the yard of the private property. And you can see how the water conveys down the ditch line. So the policy, what we did under this particular case is we went out with a survey team and we shot the ditch, and then Pierce, our stormwater drainage engineer, division manager, laid out the engineering piece. And basically how it would work, and I don't know if I use that mouse, can I use that mouse instead of a little pointer on it? It won't work there. Anyway, yeah, here we go. So basically, here's the red lines are basically how the ditch would lay in the pipe. And we would propose the pipe, a certain size pipe in the ditch, and then propose cover over the pipe, but still have a swale there between the road and the private property, because we'd like to retain the water that comes off this road right there, so it would perk in the ground. If the ground is straight from the road to the property, then the water is going to do one of two things. It's either going to puddle right here in the road, or it's going to run into the neighbor's or into the private property. So based on the estimate and the design, this is the cost that we came up with, probably a conservative cost of what it would cost the property owner to put this pipe in. So now this is what we don't want to have. This is a neighborhood where the ditches, this ditch right here has been piped, and you can see all the water is retained in the road. And so this is what we'd be not wanting to have, and what we would reject because there's just not enough elevation to handle the stormwater coming off the road. In this case, this neighborhood is probably too flat, okay, to accommodate ditch piping, and this would not be recommended. So I think our current procedure right now is an applicant can apply to have his ditch pipe and through the community development, and they will go out there and look at it and let him pipe his ditch, and he pays for it. This policy that I've been asked to put forward, let's see, or puts Public Works in the business of piping people's ditches for compensation.
Can we do that here?
Well, yeah, you can.
We're charging them.
Your charge, I mean, it's a public ditch, and we don't necessarily have to pipe it, and if it's deemed to be beneficial, the county wants to do it, I think we can say the option is to not do it at all, which is, keeps it fine, and then second option, if you want it, then, you know, that person would have to pay for it.
So our concerns are, first of all, unknown demand. We don't know how many are out there. I think Ben has had about 10 to 15 requests in the past 18 months. Sometimes you start piping a couple of ditches, you actually get more customers. The lost opportunity cost. What I have to do, in order to pipe that ditch, I have to take a crew and have them work on it for a couple of days, maybe 2.5 days. But what that does is that takes a guy off a sidearm mower, takes a guy off an excavator that's mowing a ditch for a couple of days. So there's impact costs there. It deviates from our core mission, and our core mission is maintenance. And I don't know, this work might be better suited for a contractor. I don't know. So I bring that up for discussion. Yes, sir.
It will take away from your core mission. It will. And you don't know how many requests you want to get. But I think that probably to begin with, you wouldn't have that many, but as more people learn that the county would do this, and I understand, you know, the idea is to get the property owner to pay for all the costs. You know, if they're paying for all the costs, it's not costing the taxpayer anything. You know, you hard argue with that. But on the other hand, we have so many drainage issues now. Okay? And trying to get around to address all of them without throwing in private property owners' request to come out and pipe there, even if they pay for it all. I don't know if your department's got that kind of staff and time to do it. I would be against it, to be honest with you. I would love to pay the county to come out and do my deal. So that thing works me to death. But trying to keep it looking nice, just full of water out there now. But it's because we've had a lot of rains. And we'll try it eventually. I'll get back down in it, keep it looking nice. But
and as you know, the piping of the ditch doesn't take the water out of the ditch.
Yeah.
It just hides the fact that there's water in the pipe.
yeah,
And so the mosquito problem or the concerns about mosquitoes could still be there. Matter of fact, it could be a more severe problem because the pipe doesn't let the water drain into the ground. It's going to flow one way or the other or just sit there. Some of these areas are so flat and on such a slope that the water doesn't move very fast.
Well, if you turn it over to a private contractor, the county's gonna still have to supervise. I mean, you turn it over to a private contractor, you have a train wreck. I mean, if it's done improperly. So, I mean, you still got, even though we give them a permit to do it, somebody's got to, I guess, go out and inspect the thing after it's done to make sure that.
That is a major concern because, and I think we have some roads in this county where the pipe inverts as you go down the street.
Yeah.
One's facing this way, one's facing that way, and so there's no constant flow of water from one side down one edge of the street. So,
You must have laid that pipe. You must have laid that pipe.
no, I tell you what.
So, Dave,
Sir.
the bottom line is, do you have a recommendation from staff viewpoint whether we should move forward with this?
there are some instances where the piping of a ditch makes sense. In public works point of view, on outfall ditches that run between people's houses, and you have to get a vehicle in there at certain times of year to cut that. That makes sense. Roadside ditches, it's a lot easier for us to inspect this and make sure this is flowing.
But you have a lot of better drainage too.
If we put a plastic pipe in there, we got to worry about overhead cover. If they park a semi on that, they could collapse that. We also have to clean that pipe out with the VACCON truck. And so depending on how long, if they get to a system where one guy gets one and then they start hooking this thing up and then it goes all the way down the street, then we've got a series of clean outs and other challenges. And in reality, it's difficult without a good amount of money to make one of these neighborhoods into a curb and gutter community.
And that was gonna be my point, you can't just do this on a spot basis. If you don't do the whole neighborhood, you're gonna have runoff water from the street going nowhere. I mean, yeah, you can find a pipe somewhere, I mean, you can find a drain somewhere, but, there's no way.
Right there.
Yeah, I mean,
They go back to the slide you just had there, I wanna ask you something. Okay, there's a pipe in that, under that driveway.
Correct.
You were showing, and it may have been, I think it's, you were showing a superimposed pipe, proposed pipe.
Correct.
Would it tie on to that pipe, or would you take that drive out and that pipe up?
We would, no, it would tie onto this existing pipe, the one that's been designed, this is a concrete pipe, and we would just lay concrete pipe on either side to the property line.
Good enough, that's good. The reason I ask that, it's my opinion, one of the biggest problems we have with drainage, with open ditches, is when you've had a home built, and the people, the builder, the homeowner, who went in, they put a pipe down in the ditch and covered it, they didn't put it low enough. It's not low enough. And what happens is, if it's all draining this way, if they didn't put that pipe low enough, it's sitting too high, everything back on that end of the road, when you go to drain those ditches and get enough drainage, enough fall, when you get down here, you're that much lower than the bottom of the pipe. I have it at my house, and that's all over the county. And if we go to piping these things up and covering them up, where they're tied onto a pipe that the invert is too low to begin with, too high.
Correct.
We're just exacerbating the problem. And I just don't think we should go there. I'm about ready to do my own myself.
Mr. Howard,
Yeah.
I think it's important to have a clear policy, especially on this issue. When you're called by one of your constituents, for whatever reason, whether it's to not have to deal with the ditch when they cut the grass anymore, they want to pipe the ditch. Without a clear policy, you're put in a difficult situation. You really can't, you don't want to tell them no without any policy in place. But if there's a policy in place that makes sense, you can say, well, Mrs. Jones, we have a policy in place that we vetted, we believe is the right thing, and unless there's some dire emergency, we're not gonna, our policy is not to pipe ditches. Or your policy could be, we allow the ditches to be piped, you have to make an application. If the county staff who have knowledge of this area deem that it makes sense, then we'll allow you to pay for that. But I think one way or another, to settle this issue, we need a policy. Because what happens with Dave and I, we're put in a conundrum.
Exactly. Well, I would go for a policy where we allow the homeowner to do it at his expense. You hire a contractor, they're charged a fee, and the fee is enough to allow for county engineering to go out. Well, when they get that permit, the homeowner's got to hire a contractor who does a survey, and he understands what the inverts are and what the fall's got to be. Okay? And that they submit that back to the county, and we check it and verify that they know where to put that pipe. Okay? And
we have any idea what it's costing us on an annual basis to clean out these ditches, redig ditches, that type of thing? Because I don't think there's a development in Glynn County that doesn't have ditches that have failed over the years, and the water's sitting, it's not running, so
Well, look,
do we have any concept of that?
the reality is,
Yeah.
Commissioner Stanlaw, reality, I have 3 8-foot lengths of pipe under my drive, concrete pipe, 24 feet. The county come out and redig the ditch, okay, every so many years, cause it does fill back up.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll blow that pipe out. But they have to go back and redig out that ditch. Those pipes, in fact, my pipes of mine are more than half full of dirt. They're full. If I've got the county to come out there and cover it, I have 220 feet across the front. That pipe's gonna fill up with dirt. How they gonna clean that out?
They have a vacuum truck.
220 feet?
They'd have to go out and clean it out, you know, like
Now,
I said.
all right, so now, they're not doing that because we don't have that piping. What kind of expense is that gonna be if we start having 10% of the county ditched, covered, and we got these pipes up for it? And we're always out doing that.
Well, you can, I mean, Mike, you know, if you pipe, just like a new development, if you see a lot of these developments, they'll have a big, deep drainage ditch at the end. Your piping, of course, is designed and sloped so that everything runs to that thing ditch and it dumps, which will reduce the amount of silt and sediment you get building up in the pipe, because it's running to an open ditch. That ditch then needs to be cleaned out, periodically, but
Well, I would like.
they're trying to pipe the entire county.
I'd like a policy where it's all on the homeowner, and we set in a policy that addresses, that a survey has to be done by their contractor that's gonna put the pipe in, it's submitted. If it's going out, somebody that's knowledgeable with surveys and inverts, they can check it real quick. Yeah, y'all got this thing figured out? Put it in that way, okay? Or no, you don't. The pipe's not deep enough up here on this end, that's what we're looking for, proper fault.
I don't have any problem with the policy, Mike. I have problems with the maintenance aspect after the piping is done and everything, trying to keep it clean so the water can continuously.
Whether the
Go
county
through it.
puts the pipe in or the property owner puts it in, you have a problem putting the pipe in anyhow, right? What you're saying?
No, I'm saying, once the pipe's in,
Yeah.
how you gonna keep it clean
Filling up.
from filling up, just like you were talking about with yours, with dirt and debris and one thing or another?
Or backing up is.
Yeah.
Where, and then all of a sudden now you got a drainage problem,
I agree.
all
I
over
agree
the
with you.
place, so.
I agree with
Then
you.
you're getting a call from a guy whose yard's getting flooded because
That's
the
my
pipe is apart and his ditch filled, that the ditch on the other side filled up, that's backing up into his yard.
The policy would have to be, part about it, if your enclosed pipe is creating a problem, you've got to pay to fix it. And can we enforce that? See, that's where, so all of a sudden, this guy's private pipe is clogged up, and it's now created a backup to the whole neighborhood, and we've got to sit here and tell him, you need to clean out your pipe. And that's hard to
Try to enforce that.
Yeah, because I think what you're gonna find is, it's not gonna be so much his pipe, is where the stuff's coming out the other end of the guy below it. That ditch fills up. Like I said, that ditch fills up over time, it starts to back up, you go to the homeowner, it's not my problem, it's the guy over here, you go clean the ditch out. Well, your pipe's creating the problem.
Yeah, listen, you fix to start herding cats.
Yeah.
I just developed the policy unless it's some kind of emergency and they apply to the county administrator and through Dave and they approve it, then we don't pipe.
We don't pipe.
Heritage.
We don't pipe. Even though
So the consensus.
this lady that David's talking about, it's in my district, and David's gonna have to be the one to explain to her that Commissioner Strickland was not in favor of this.
Tell her I did, I don't care.
So we're gonna ask.
You fought very hard for us.
We're gonna ask,
Thank you.
we're gonna ask staff to develop a policy based on our conversation, bring it back to us for review, and then we can take it to a meeting to vote on after we review it.
And call the Brunswick News and tell them why open ditches are better than covered pipe.
Monica's gonna take care of it.
Are we good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But on the contrary side, we do need to start looking at a lot of the ditches in this community that are backing up and not draining. To get the guy off there, lawnmower for 10 minutes, put him on the excavator, start digging out some of these ditches. Because we do have a serious issue with that, with a lot of neighborhoods and stuff flooding, because ditches are filled in, and they haven't been cleaned out in years.
Do you happen to know off the top of your head, so you can tell Commissioner Stanball, how many miles of ditches Glynn County has?
I didn't say do it all tomorrow, Richard.
I think it's like 300 or 400 miles.
I think it said, say do it next weekend.
Yeah, I mean,
Where does it start?
Yeah, Mr. Buzzard,
I don't even know whether this is legal or not, but, this scrap beach thing is sort of getting some legs here. We're getting a lot of people involved and it's getting to be a lot of moving parts. I mean, eventually, Richard and I are gonna have to come back to the commission and round up at least 2 more votes to go forward with this thing. And basically, I think what we're looking at is a zero tolerance policy. We're going to scream that message to every university and every school, everywhere. The University of Georgia, Georgia Southern are all on board. They're encouraging this. But if we're wrong here, you know, and we can't get 2 more votes, y'all tell us now.
Yeah, but here's another problem too, and I think I've talked to Bill about this, that one of the things that this commission has to resolve is how big do you want this to get? I mean, do you want it to continuously grow every year and, you know, to multiply into tens of thousands of people? Because here's the problem. Camp Bendig, one of his proposals is that we get a company and they promote this thing. Well, it's like Commissioner Provenzano and I have talked about. If a company promotes this, what are they in it for? They're in it for the money. So the more people they bring in, the better off they're gonna be.
we didn't put this on the agenda. We'll bring it up.
That's not gonna happen this year.
That's food for thought, and it's not on the agenda, so
Thank you.
put it on the next agenda.
Yeah, it was splosh.
We're